Okay guys, well here is my first attempt at a little tin tackle box. Just a this is a little, it might be a little bit bigger than an Altoid container. I'm going to try to pick up an Altoids container and do a similar kit for the Adams contest for an Equipped to Endure. He's got a little Altoids tin little kit contest going on, but this is kind of my just rough draft, if you will, of a little pocket-sized kit. And this is a little bit bigger, like I said. This is actually an herb container. That's why it's clear, so you can see your the different varieties of herbs. You can see what it is by looking in it. But I just took this out of my kitchen. This is a spare one I had here, and I went ahead and made a little tackle kit out of it. Put a rubber band on there just to secure it. Also, it will have another use, which I'll get to later. And just looking inside here, right off the bat, there is a popper. Now, I pretty much put this kit together thinking that the type of fish that we could be targeting are largemouth bass, and brim is basically for a pond, a reservoir, lake or little lake or stream, even river type situation. Here in my region, bass are pretty much our dominant freshwater fish. So I put a little popper in there, and I put a knife with multiple blades. Just a little cheap little folder knife. I think this is a Winchester knife, and so I got that in there. Okay, moving right along. I put some weights in here, and I have a couple different types of weights. I have 2 egg sinkers, a 1/2 ounce and a 1/4 ounce egg sinker. I have a bullet weight here, and then I have just little weights that you can pinch on the line, just little tiny BB size weights. So if you want to go super light, you can just use one, or if you want to use a couple, and just adjust your weight depending on water depth and things like that. So I got a few of those. I just put them in a little medication bag. Good way to store them. I mean, all these different weights come in their own bags. So I just picked a few out of each of the other bags and just kind of combined them, put them all here together in this little medication bag. Next, I have another medication bag, and in here I packed up a couple worms. So a really good bait for bass, in my opinion, is the worm. So I packed up a couple different varieties, and not very many, just a few, because hopefully I'm not going to be out there in that survival situation very long. I mean, if I didn't carry my tackle box, one of my goals wasn't really fishing. This is just kind of a survival fishing kit. I'm not looking to catch many fish. I can catch a fish off of each one of these worms, if not more. So, one fish is enough to feed me, and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's potentially 6 days. Okay, or one big smorgasbord. And then this bad boy right here will produce a few fish for you, hopefully. Then I have the little rooster tail, just a little retrieve bait. This is great for catching the brim that would be in the same, or crappie, which would be in the same body of water as the bass, and perhaps the water temperature is really warm, or really cold. Either way, for the most part, really warm, and the bass just aren't biting. You can throw this, and you'll catch bass on this, of course, but you'll also catch your brim and your smaller fish that would be in the pond as well. So that's a good little have right there. Definitely a good tool to have in your little backup survival fishing kit here. I packed up some 12-pound fluorocarbon. The reason I decided to go ahead and put the fluorocarbon in here was because I'm going to go after the smart fish, and fluorocarbon is the way to do that. Now, the downfall to using your little spool here of fluorocarbon rather than a spool of monofilament is a spool of fluorocarbon this is 30 yards, whereas a spool of monofilament is 100 yards. So you're going to lose a lot of the line, but you can't throw a bait 100 yards with your hand, I promise. Without a rod, you're not going to be able to throw it very far at all. So 30 yards is sufficient. I mean, you're going to be swinging this bait and flinging it. You're not going to have a rod to get that leverage to really launch the bait. So 30 yards of fluorocarbon is plenty of line. Moving right along, I have a little bag of hooks, and I have wide gap hooks for these worms, some with weights on the hook and some with no weights. So that way I have options. I have actually have 2 of each, 2 with weights molded on the hooks, 2 without weights. It's depending on you know, growth in the pond, you know, the vegetation, whether or not you want to weight on there, water depth. If you have clear water that's a little bit deeper, you might want to put the weight on there to get the bait to sink. If the water is shallow and a lot of vegetation, maybe you don't want that weight, so that way it's less likely to hang up the grass and the weeds, and it'll slowly sink, get the fish time to pick it up before he loses it on the bottom. So there's some hooks, and I packed up a few more rubber bands. This is just good for keeping your line straight, and I'll show you in a second. And then I packed a few swivels, just in case you would want to use a swivel. Really not necessary in this situation. We're not trying to win a tournament or anything. So, and these baits, none of these baits are really spinning baits, so I just kind of put them in there as a just in case kind of deal. Because maybe this guy here, he might get a little bit of a spinning action, and you've only got that little bit of line that you want to last, so you don't want to put a bunch of memory in it and ruin that line. You want to keep it nice and straight, so maybe you need to put a swivel on there, keep your line straight for you. Now I'm going to get into how to use the baits without a fishing rod. Now, when you don't have a rod, I'm going to just assume that maybe you have a bottle of water. You could also take a stick and take your knife, knock the rough edges off the stick, and use the stick the same way. Very big in places like Mexico, where you'll see a lot of locals on the ponds and stuff in Mexico fishing with just a bottle or a stick. And what they do is you take your bottle here and you pull off your length of line that you want, right? And you just wrap the line around the bottle, see? And then what you do is you pull off and you keep wrapping it, you know, until you've got plenty of backing on there. And you just pull off what you've got here. You tie your bait on the end and you just swing it and you fling it. And when you fling it, the string just comes right off the bottle. And then when you wind it back up, you take the bottle in hand and you wind the fish in with the bottle, you see. And this really will work. It's a pretty good little method, and again, you can use a stick in case you don't have your bottle, but I would hope that you have this with you, because I'll tell you what, you don't need to worry about none of this stuff if you don't have this, because if you don't have water, you don't need to eat. It's a waste of time, waste of calories, waste of energy. Just sit and wait for somebody to come get you if you don't have no water, or try to figure out a way to get water. Forget the fishing, get something to drink, get some water, hydrate yourself. So here you go, my little pocket fishing survival kit, brought to you by Captain Tactical here in the workshop. I'll be putting together a Altoids style kit, the same version of this similar type here. Just so I can pick up some Altoids, but this is just a little practice, a little preliminary, like I said, rough draft version of my pocket fishing kit. So holder.